everyone, and welcome to our, and thank you for joining us for our weekly Democratic Leadership Media Availability this week. Joining us today is Majority Whip Emily Randall and Assistant Floor Leader Joe Wynn. The members will take your questions in just a moment, but first I'll turn it over to them for some opening remarks. Senator Wynn.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Aaron. And thank you to everybody for being here today. It is an incredibly important week that we're starting off. Long days on the floor and a lot of very important bills that are coming up in the next few days as well. So everything from improving our apprenticeship programs, insulin caps, strengthening our paid family leave, addressing climate change, all those things, even during a short session, are incredibly important for us to pass right now, not to mention the budget and also the transportation package that Senator Randall can touch upon later as well. We know that this economy is booming for certain individuals, but not necessarily for all. We're still in the middle of a pandemic, working through how we can solve systemic issues for the people in Washington state. And it is a great honor and privilege to be able to serve during this time, just because there's so much work to be done. So thank you so much for being here and looking forward to answering questions a little bit as well. I'll hand it off to you, Senator Randall.
Thanks so much, Senator Wynn. Also happy to be here to chat with you at the beginning of this week. Like Senator Wynn said, it is a really big week. We've got a lot of exciting action on the floor. I know we've all got our eyes on bills that are going to improve the lives of families here in Washington, focusing in on our priorities around climate action and resiliency, a just economy for all, healthy families and communities, education and opportunity, and investing in infrastructure, which I'm particularly excited about this week, though we'll have a big announcement and an opportunity to talk more in depth about what we'll see in a transportation infrastructure package tomorrow. And then we have a hearing scheduled on the bill in the Senate on Thursday. So lots to talk about around ensuring that the people of Washington in all corners of our state and rural and urban settings have the investments that we need to build out a stronger, more resilient future for all of us. So big stuff happening in the Senate this week.
Great. With that, we'll go first to Rachel LaCourte with the Associated Press. Rachel, go ahead.
If I'm remembering correctly, the redistricting map adoption deadline is tomorrow. So I'm just making sure, I'm assuming that'll be on the floor tomorrow. And do you anticipate any issues with the technical changes that the House sent over?
That will be on the floor tomorrow. I don't anticipate any issues with those technical changes. I think we all agree that there are some things that we need to fix. I think you'll probably hear from our members tomorrow when we do that work about, their disappointment in our inability to have a voting rights compliant district in the Yakima Valley area, but we're here to pass those final changes to make sure that our process is able to continue.
Rachel, do you have a follow?
No, I'm all set. Thanks.
All right. Next up, we'll go to Jerry Cornfield with the Everett Herald. Jerry, go ahead.
Senator Randall, regarding the transportation package, can you tell us now, I guess the Republicans say they still have not been briefed on what's in it, how you plan to fund it. So can you walk us through why Republicans have been left out, and when do you plan, if at all, to bring them into the process?
Yeah, I guess I would disagree that Republicans have been left out entirely. I know that our members in leadership have been having regular conversations with the ranking member, Senator King, and Representative Barkas on the House side about what the package looks like and what our path forward will be. It certainly took the House and Senate Democrats quite a while to reach an agreement. So in a short session, maybe a four corners process wasn't as feasible. But what we do know is that we are including elements that have bipartisan support. We've got big, meaningful investments, some of the biggest we've ever seen in maintenance and preservation. We're working on investing in communities all across the state, and it's reflective of the countless conversations that both House and Senate members have been having with communities across the state, and ensuring that we're lifting up those priorities and investing in a way that is different than we've done before. That's really values focused, not about necessarily member projects and, you know, negotiating votes by ensuring that everyone's projects are in the package. This is about, you know, a sustainable, values-based, transformative infrastructure package that does things differently and that really focuses on sustainability. So I know you'll have at least one vote from the Senate Republican caucus, but I'm hoping for more.
Carrie, a follow?
Just staying on that theme, last session, the House and Senate worked on packages separately, and that was part of the issue. They couldn't agree. So why did Democrats decide to go with the partisan approach by getting agreement between yourselves before you engaged the Republicans?
Well, I think the first part of your question answers a little bit of that. We wanted to make sure that we're working on a package that was passable, that we could implement this year. Our needs have been long-standing. We hear from business community, from local governments, from neighbors all across the state that we need to be making investments yesterday in the infrastructure that they need for today and tomorrow. And so, you know, our goal was to get something that we could get across the finish line that reflected the breadth and depth of community needs across Washington. And so I think that's informative of the approach. But I also want to say that, you know, this it's not just Democrats, you know, drive certain stretches of highway, not just Democrats ride the ferries, not just Democrats want to be able to charge their electric vehicles more easily, right? We know that these investments are going to impact people in every corner of Washington for the better.
Great. Next, we'll go to Keith Eldrew with Como TV. Keith, go ahead.
Hi, and thanks for taking the question. It has to go back to last week's vote on the commutation bill. Just talked to Republicans in the Senate, and they asked how you possibly could think it's a good idea to release people like Gary Widger, at least give him the option, because with the 25-year mark, sentenced in 2003, he'll be eligible in 2028. They ask, why do you think that could ever be a good idea?
I think that one is an important vote, and obviously it's tough as we look at our justice system, ensuring how do we have public safety, but look at the folks we're addressing right now. These are folks who are a bit up there in age, and oftentimes our facilities aren't even appropriate for handling their healthcare needs as well. So these are people that, and this is not just a blanket commutation, they still have to go through the full process as well to understand the impacts that this will potentially have. It is ensuring that we're being mindful of who we are addressing in terms of public safety within the facilities, but also how do we ensure that our system is also set up appropriately as well. So, you know, happy to chat some more, but this is something that we've been discussing and working through a long time, where we're ensuring that we're appropriately addressing the folks inside the facilities and also outside.
TTO follow?
Yeah. So on that vein, Senator Warnock testified or spoke from the floor saying she voted for getting rid of the death penalty with the idea that it was a promise that people getting life without parole would not get this kind of a break. What do you tell her? And is there a potential that what happened last year is that it'll get stalled in the House and this will all be for naught?
Well, it isn't necessarily automatic as well. There's a review process that's highly intensive to ensure that we're being mindful of what this could potentially impact our community. So I don't know of that particular case in terms of the Green River killer, but I think there are other individuals where we believe it would be safe being able to have them in our communities again, given that they've served their time, but also candidly, a lot of them are at an age point where they are less likely to be a risk to our communities.
Up next, we've got a couple of Hannah Scott's having a little bit of technical difficulties this morning, so she texted me a couple of questions. One is on the transportation package. She says there are concerns that it may be too late in session to get a transportation package done. What are the expectations for Democrats?
We're only halfway through session. We can still vote on it.
Yeah, that's true. And I think you'll hear more of our detailed plan tomorrow, but as you saw, or as you can already see scheduled, we're unveiling tomorrow. We're having a hearing in the Senate on Thursday. I think we've got time for floor action to send it over to the House. And part of the reason that we did joint negotiations was so that we could have a joint plan to get it across the finish line. So I don't think it's anywhere near close enough to cast doubt on our ability to get it done yet this year.
And Hannah has a follow-up on gun bills. What level of priority is there on passing some of the gun safety bills, specifically high-capacity magazine ban and limits on open carry, such as limiting pre-exemption so cities can enact their own rules?
Sorry, was it high capacity? Is that what you said?
Yeah, high capacity magazines and the preemption open carry rule that so cities can enact their own ordinances.
Yeah, I think obviously public safety again is very important, ensuring that we have folks who are respectful of the Second Amendment and the rights to be able to carry, but also there are certain instruments that don't necessarily fit that mold. So that is an ongoing discussion that we're having at the very least in the Senate. We believe that it is an important topic to address, but we're still kind of working through the nuances associated with it as well.
All right, great. Next, we will go to Laurel Demkovich of the Spokesman Review. Laurel, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. I have a question on middle housing. It seems at this point that the House version, which is slightly less far-reaching, is probably going to be the mover as it's getting a vote today. So I'm just wondering why not the Senate version, and any thoughts on how you want to see those kind of combined for a final passage?
Yeah, that one is interesting just because out of the Senate, it was almost unanimous, and in the House, it was through party line across the committees itself. Obviously, that is an important topic for us to address affordable housing to, I think, help mitigate the impacts of homelessness that we're seeing throughout Washington state as well. I do think that the nuances obviously are still being worked out across both chambers, but that's an interesting one where we have seen bipartisan support for something that can be feasibly contentious. So, we'll have to see how it plays out in the coming weeks, but I don't have a perspective just yet in terms of whether it's the House versus the Senate version.
Hey, Laurel, do you have a follow?
No, I'm okay. Thanks.
Okay. Next up, we'll go to Austin Jenkins of Northwest News Network. Austin, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Great. I wanted to ask a question that I asked of the governor over last week, and the Republicans today, and I'll ask of you now. Given how extensive the homelessness crisis is in the state, and given that nobody thinks that encampments along the freeways and right-of-ways is a good idea, and given that there is a precedent for creating tiny homes, why is the state incapable of building at scale temporary but structurally safe and sound housing in the mold of tiny housing to address this problem and address it quickly? Why are we incapable of building 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 of these units quickly and deploying them around the state? What's the holdup?
Yeah, first off, I agree with you. I have a facility in my district called Camp Second Chance that has been a good model for how this can work out. I think the idea of encampments itself has been politicized in a way where it's kind of muddled a little bit. Folks don't differentiate between the sanctioned encampments that are regulated versus ones that are not necessarily that way. So part of it is just the contention around homelessness in general. But we have, I think, are allocating hundreds of millions of dollars towards temporary assistance for these types of facilities where you can get these shelters up very quickly. I had a bill that we've been running for the past 4 years that hasn't been able to get passed through the House to help with the regulatory frameworks to speed these things up so they don't take 12 months of review to be able to actually do. So this is kind of a unique dynamic this year where I think folks are starting to realize how important it is for us to get folks off the streets as fast and safely as possible, but also having the resources and also the regulatory environment to be able to do it. So I think historically, it is a tough topic that folks have had a hard time grappling with. And I think we're starting to get more clarity given that this is obviously not getting, in my opinion, better given the pandemic, but we have to address right now. But I'm kind of with you. I think we need to be standing up these temporary solutions. And by the way, they are temporary. I don't by any means think that tiny homes are the answer to solving homelessness, but in lieu of having more supportive and affordable housing, we need these solutions. And that's how we clear out, that's how we make sure that there are less unsanctioned encampments, ensuring that folks are in stable places that have the services to actually help folks. But that is a priority for this year. It is being called out within our capital and operating budgets as well. And we hope that there can be some other frameworks to help make them easily accessible, so you don't necessarily need to wait 12 months to be able to stand them up.
And the only thing that I'd add there is that, well, yes, I'm certainly frustrated at the time it takes for us to be able to stand up new housing, new housing units, particularly emergency shelter and permanent supportive housing. We have invested dramatically in the capital budget and permanent supportive housing, in low-income housing, in preserving multifamily housing, $350 million in the capital budget last year in housing. So, I've been watching, in my neighborhood, a project that we funded, a permanent supportive housing project that we funded, 2019 session, and it's about ready to open its doors. So while that's slower than we would all like to be able to get people in shelter right away, we are, making those investments, and will continue to, because there is such an incredible need out there. Yeah.
Great. Austin, do you have a follow?
No, thanks.
Okay, that's our last question of the day, so I'll throw it back to Senator Randall for some closing remarks.
Sure. I think, from your questions today, and also from the work that we have ahead of us on the floor, we know that it's going to be an exciting week. We are really focusing in on the emergent needs of families in Washington, so that we can build a more equitable recovery. And that looks like creating more jobs and connecting communities through an infrastructure investment. It looks like ensuring that folks feel safe in their homes, and that we're investing the kind of money that we need to in order to help stem our housing crisis. So lots of work ahead of us, and eager to see what we can accomplish and send over to the House before House of Origin cutoff.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, not too long, but this is a very important week for us to get a lot of the people's work done as we're nearing some of our cutoff deadlines. There are, despite it being a short session, a lot of very pressing issues that we have to address this year, whether it's in our budget, the transportation sector, even capping insulin costs for folks who are impacted by it right now, or the paid family leave program. So despite it still being a pandemic and the remote nature of session, we're very eager to work together and to get things done for the people in Washington state.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll see you next week.